Jim Flyzik.
Good afternoon and welcome to the show. I'm Jim Flyzik. During today's show, we will discuss critical issues facing government and industry leaders in securing cyberspace. With me today on the show are Rear Admiral Robert Day, the Chief Information Officer from the U.S. Coast Guard, Gil Vega, the Chief Information Security Officer at the Department of Energy, Ed Roback, the Associate Chief Information Officer for Cybersecurity and CISO at the Department of Treasury, Erich Baumgartner, the Vice President, Public Sector at Sourcefire, David O'Barry, the Technology Strategist at McAfee, and Betsy Hight, the VP for Cybersecurity Solutions Group at the U.S. Public Sector at HP. Let's get into the topic. Cybersecurity is a hot topic these days, and we hear all the time about security issues and so forth. But how about some positive news? Can we talk a little bit about where we actually feel like we're making some progress in securing cyberspace? Let's start with Rear Admiral Day over the Coast Guard. Rear Admiral, where do you see some positive traction taking place?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we have a new emphasis on it. Probably the #1 emphasis, at least from my perspective as a CIO, and we've made progress. I mean, there's a lot of things we didn't know about maybe 3-4 years ago that because of this emphasis and because of the capabilities that are being delivered out there to better understand. The key thing that I've seen is, you know, we thought we were in configuration. We weren't. Right. And now with the tools that we have, we're being able to standardize configurations across the entirety of the IT platform, which then gives you the ability to secure better. So the tools we're getting, the new skill sets of the people that we're bringing in to look at this, those are really ending up providing us with a more secure platform. We're still got a long ways to go, right, but I think now with the new emphasis and the new focus on it, we have made some progress over the last couple of years.
I guess that's one of the advantages of having it be a priority for our government, is it puts emphasis, and I think when you have something that's a priority and looks like it has some funding behind it, it inspires industry to come up with better tool sets and so forth. So it's good to see that we're getting some of that stuff deployed. Gil Vega, how about the Department of Energy? What's some of the areas that you think you see progress being made?
I think generally there's a realization amongst our community in public sector, in partnership with the private sector, that we're sort of in this together. So what I've seen over the last 2 years is a focus and a commitment to information sharing of best practices, and a real cooperative spirit about engaging in the battle of cybersecurity. We used to say that the offense was industrialized and the defense was a cottage industry, but that's changing. And I think at the Department of Energy and other agencies, we're upping our game, we're improving our tools, our people are getting better. But probably the most critical aspect of all of it is information sharing amongst the departments and agencies, and sharing threat information and helping one another. I see a lot of that going on daily.
Yeah, I think, you know, the government might be able to do a little steering, but it can't do all the rowing either, because it's going to take a community effort and a togetherness of everyone in order to actually, you know, address the issues that are out there, because you always have the weakest link somewhere out there in that network. David O'Barry, how about over at McAfee? I mean, when I think of McAfee, I think, well, there's a company that's been living security for a long, long time. Where are you seeing some progress in supporting your customer base in government, and some of the things you think are really making a difference?
Sure. I think one of the issues that we've always had is the amount of information that can be shared. I think we're starting to break across a lot of those silos. I'm seeing a lot more playing off of really what they said, the standardization of templates and best actionable practices, as well as the information sharing, which makes a huge difference. And at McAfee, we're all about don't reinvent the wheel.
Right.
You know, and so if there's a really good wheel out there somewhere, you know, use as much of it as you can. And right now, with the way funding is and different things like that, we want to be as judicious as we can in the expense, you know, that the government incurs. I mean, and at the same time, that type of actionable skill set can be extrapolated across. Sure. But I'm seeing a lot more with NIST, some of the stuff from the directive, the cybersecurity directive and things like that, to where everybody's really taking it a lot very, very seriously, not just even within the government, but now critical infrastructure, talking to the government more. And there have been some real challenges of that in the past, and it's been hit or miss, and now we're starting to see a more linear share.
So we're getting more proactive out in front of these things rather than waiting for something to break and then fix it.
Yeah, I think, and I think that all comes from standardization, how you share. I mean, you take the privacy concerns I understand all those types of things and take that into account. But then standardize how you share it. And when you do that and people have the trust factor that you can build in those relationships, that makes a huge difference for companies like McAfee working with the government and for the government working amongst itself.
Sure, good to hear. Ed Roback, how about over at Department of Treasury? Ed, you've been in a role over there for some time now. Where are you seeing the trends in progress being made?
So, first of all, let me thank you for having me here
Sure.
today. Secondly, Treasury is quite a diverse organization, so it's really hard to sort of characterize something entirely across
I know
Treasury.
a little bit about that place. But.
Yeah, I understand that. We do see you from time to time visiting, and we really appreciate seeing alumnus come back. So first of all, let me just say, one of the things, and it's echoing the Rear Admiral's comment, is seeing the focus on security. One of the things I really appreciate is the administration's focus and continuing focus on the same things year to year for the last few years, because that really helps us in terms of planning out both budgets as well as priorities and trying to push out things on the administration's CAP goals, on continuous monitoring, the PIV goals, and TIC goals, and so forth. So that's really good to see because it lets us focus our energies and push people in the same direction on focusing on that. But there's a whole lot of other things where we've seen progress, both in technology, but also in things like awareness. That's a big one. You see it all over the place, so people do pick up on that. We have people now calling us saying, I see something suspicious, can you come and look at this, which we never have seen before. And usually it's something very innocuous, but we'd much rather get that call than not.
That's right.
So that's really important. All kinds of new things, we're able to make great strides in terms of encrypting laptops and PDAs. There's technologies, with zero client, thin client, which is going to make a tremendous difference in terms of you lose those boxes. Okay, you lost a box.
You're not losing all the data.
And the same with encryption. We've got better security protocols. That's great. We still need progress there. The ability to do remote kills, that's great. The ability to have better situational awareness, we're still not there yet, but with the CDM program out of DHS, the ability to feed both at the departmental level as well as feed up for civil government-wide view, I think progress is going to be made as they roll that program out. So you can list a huge number of things.
Yeah, well, just to hear just the scope of the things you just addressed there, I think if you go back years, I mean, this is my personal comment here. It looks to me like we're more focused today on deploying the fixes as opposed to looking at paper compliance. That's just that's my comment, not yours. Betsy Hight over at HP. How's HP? Where are you seeing progress and some things happening to support efforts in secure and cyberspace?
Well, I think the biggest progress is the realization that cybersecurity is not a one-time event, and it does not require a single tool or a single process or a single certification. It's, in fact, a whole ecosystem. And without question, the thing that's most heartening to me is that people realize cybersecurity is about achieving a mission or a business outcome. It's not about what the IT department is doing. And so if you can integrate what it is that you're trying to accomplish in cybersecurity within the business or mission processes of the organization, that's when you have a real win.
Yeah, I think too. We've had a discussion before. Viewing it as risk reduction, as opposed to talking cybersecurity, sometimes resonates better at the executive level because it really is. You're talking about reducing the risks to your organization, and which risk can turn into large money if you don't reduce those risks.
Well, that's right. And just to follow on to that thought, it really is about what is the highest probability of achieving what you're trying to achieve. The outcome of your process, the outcome of your mission, the outcome of your business, delivering citizen services, protecting the nation. So if you can think about cybersecurity as one of the many components that enables you to accomplish the mission instead of something that happens behind some door that no one understands. That's when you'll really make progress.
Contributing to achieving a secure result as opposed to a technology issue. Dave, you had a comment to make there?
Yeah, I think she hit it on the head when she said enablement. I mean, it isn't a business enabler. Oftentimes it's looked at as a black hole security. You throw money at it, but the whole goal from our perspective is how do you bring objective measures to what seems like a very subjective field.
Right.
And
right.
it's really
it's a tough one with the ROI issue. The ROI is tough in security.
And it's hard. And I think at times it's because people have looked at it as kind of like some kind of magic situation, and it's a science.
Right.
So it's bringing that objectivity to that science and enabling the business as the rule of what you're doing that becomes very important.
Good points. Erich Baumgartner, how do you see some of the areas where progress is being made?
Well, thank you, Jim. I couldn't agree more with everybody else talking about the big picture, the enablement, the awareness, those pieces. I'd like to talk a little bit about where technology is going.
Okay.
And some of the trends that we're seeing that we think are going to help everybody going forward. So there are trends in technology around big data analytics and cloud computing that we think you can apply towards solving the problem of threats, advanced persistent threats, breaches, because those technologies now give you the ability to track every file in your environment, where it goes, what it does, what it kicks off, and allows you to understand what happens afterwards. And so for the first time, we're now with leveraging these technologies, we have the ability to see things that we couldn't see before, and we're not reliant totally upon stopping at the border, coming in, but actually the ability to do continuous protection, which I think complements the continuous monitoring initiatives that DHS is driving and NIST is driving as well.
Right.
So these technologies, I think, are very incorporating those into the security stack, if you will, are very promising.
Right. We had a discussion several times about is cloud and things like that is that going to be a security issue or whatever? And I think we've come to the conclusion that some of these cloud initiatives with big data and so forth are actually an opportunity to get rid of a lot of the old Band-Aid approaches we've been implementing for the last 20 years and take a clean look at security from a holistic approach. So there's a real opportunity there with some of these new technologies. Let's talk about some of your priorities for the year. What do you think are the most important things for the upcoming year? Let's start with Ed Roback this time. How about over Treasury, Ed? What do you see as some of your top priorities going forward here?
So first of all, I think I would start with obviously what's coming out of the administration.
Sure.
And trying to get to green on the cap goals. We're not there yet. Of course, those are published on performance.gov, so everybody can go see how we're doing. As you all know, for my government colleagues. So security configuration, vulnerability management, where we stand on hardware, software, inventory scanning, and PIV use for lax. You know all of those, right? But beyond that, some other things that have huge impacts on security, sort of as we talk about consolidation for PIV in terms of connections to the internet, we also talk about data center consolidation.
Right.
There's quite a parallel there because when you talk about consolidation, you're talking about being able to do better security because you're able to consolidate your security resources, right? Enhancing perimeter security, same thing. One of the things I've always been saying is I'm a big fan of DLP, and it's sort of for the things you say, because now you're able to watch what's going out.
Right.
And you're also able to watch and see if some encrypted things are going out, and then that raises red flags, right? So you're also able to say some of the advanced technologies, you're now able to say, oh, there's a sentence in a draft speech that's coming up that I don't want going out the door.
Right.
And that can set up a red flag as well. Keeping up with the advanced threat, huge problem.
Right.
You need advanced analytics and so forth.
Right, especially when you got the bad guys out there looking at what the good guys are doing and trying to stay in front of the good guys.
You gave the details, I didn't. Working with DHS on CDM, again, a huge priority.
Right.
That's coming up. And without going into details, enhancing the security of our classified systems.
Sure.
There's enough in the news about why we need to do that.
Yeah, right, absolutely. No doubt about that. That is now a priority issue, I believe, for everybody. Gil Vega, how about Department of Energy? What are your priorities for the upcoming year here? What are some of the things that are high on your list of to-dos?
Department of Energy, most people they think about windmills and nuclear power and open science research, but this is the agency that's the heir of the Manhattan Project, and
Right.
we have a major role in protecting our nuclear weapons secrets,
Absolutely.
development, stockpile, non-proliferation mission, very important things to the nation. So we are a target, obviously.
Yeah, we don't want any malicious code in those programs, do we?
So, and obviously most of that is on the classified systems, but still we're concerned about ensuring that our employees aren't targeted. So in that threat environment at the Department of Energy and with the ops tempo that we see in our boundary, I think we get about 50 billion interesting events across our global enterprise on a monthly basis.
Wow.
And these are all interesting events. Obviously, we don't have time and resources to track down and pull the thread on 50 billion net flow events across the environment. So one of the challenges that we have going into 14, and one of our priorities, is to try and make that problem smaller. I may not be interested in 50 billion events, but I know I'm interested in about 100 of those.
Right.
So separating the wheat from the chaff and driving towards a fully integrated and intelligence-driven incident response program is my top priority in the new fiscal year.
Yeah, but good. So identifying those things that you really do need to focus on and those things that are not so important. Rear Admiral Day, how about over at the Coast Guard? What's on your to-do list this upcoming year in the cybersecurity world?
Well, I've managed to knock off a few of them, exactly the same initiatives that my colleagues are working on. Trusted internet connections, I'm down to 3. Data center consolidation in 15, I'll be down to 1. But there's so much other things, and it really gets back to this piece of, what events am I interested in? Right today, I'm playing whack-a-mole because I'm getting just overloaded with information from tools like host-based security system and trying to figure out exactly what that means.
Right.
And having the ability to further filter those down, particularly to take action on those ones that are most egregious, that's the area that I need to get into. Finishing configuration. The better tools, as I said early on, that I've been able to find enclaves on my network that I did not know were there. And then that piece we talked about a little bit before is how do you balance mission demand versus security demands?
Right.
And sometimes you end up in a clash of cultures there,
Sure.
even still. Because I want my stuff and I want it now. I want mobile. I want all these different capabilities. And they want them delivered instantaneously, even with some of the security issues there. And it's trying to figure out how to balance
Right.
across that spectrum to deliver mission capability, but at the same time, knowing that our platforms, particularly the IT platforms, are, in this case, in this day and age, are the primary mechanism
Absolutely.
by how you deliver mission.
Right.
And the reliability of that system is absolutely key to them. So it's this constant cultural balancing across the board.
Great points. And I imagine as the next generation workforce enters the government, the generation has grown up on doing everything instantaneously with their mobile devices and their iPhones and their Androids and whatever. They're going to expect to come in and have all that available immediately. And the security issue, you guys are going to have to make sure you're in a position to meet the security challenges that's going to bring.
Absolutely. I mean, they live in the wide open.
Sure.
I mean, they disclose in many cases their personal information day in and day out.
Right.
But now when you're in a government setting and with that mission information, you can't do
Right.
that.
Right.
And so it's a cultural piece there that we're having to educate. I mean, would you think every single day I'd still have 200 events of somebody sticking a USB drive into a government computer?
Yeah, right.
Or just their
Right.
cell phone?
Right, and we won't get into discussion today because it's a whole other discussion, but to bring your own device and everything else and some of the issues that's going to open up are going to be real interesting things to take a look at. I want to hear from our private sector guest on this same topic, but we need to first take a short break. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Radio 1500 AM.